Hello, everyone. This is Samarah Grace Daniels. Welcome to 10-10-20. Yikes. I don't know about everybody else, but it's been kind of a wild ride. Today, the power was out for about 2 hours here in my little town of Cornville, and I was thinking, what will I do if there's no power? And it was kind of an interesting metaphor about power. And I know Mother Mary is going to be talking about that in just a moment. But I think today is really a time of like a reset. This afternoon, I was taking a nap for almost 2 hours, feeling a little both luxurious and weary of some of the stuff that's going on in the world. And Mother Mary came through and held me. And everybody on this call, I feel, has had that experience at some point in time of being held by Mother Mary. And I feel like tonight's message is going to be about how do we create that embrace so that we can move out of any chaos and confusion and difficulty and just be back in our own body of love, feeling her and able to act from that place. So today's talk is supposed to cover how do we have a mind at peace, a heart of compassion, and hands of love and healing. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Mother Mary. I've been channeling her since 1997, and I'm hooked, and I hope you enjoy it as well. But hello, I've asked Samarah to ring the bell. School's in. Just like millions of children right now who are having to deal with Zoom school, everyone on this call and those of you that watch later on, we're in school. So what do I mean by that? There's a point in time in your spiritual journey that you have to sort of take a moment and realize who's really leading me? What's guiding me? What do I believe? What is truly sort of the mantle that I'm wearing and the affirmation that I'm living? Am I living an old story that perhaps my parents or my family or my culture or my religion put on me like an old overcoat? Am I wearing that? Am I living that without really even being conscious of that anymore? And I think even a more important question is that serving me? Is that serving me? Is that who I am and how I want to live? Because now, right now in 2020, believe it or not, this is a time of great potential to strip away all of the old stories that place one religion against another, one country against another, one group against another, even within one family against each other. And so what I'm going to ask you to tune into with your own higher self and your own guides is, am I living an old story? And is it serving me? Now, I'm not saying that the stories were untrue. Certainly we've had decades and decades of warfare, decades and decades of prejudice against this group or that. I'm not saying the story isn't true. But what I'm saying is, do you have to continue to live that story? Or are you ready to write a new story? I want to give you sort of an idea about how to do that, again, if it feels right to you and if you would so choose. Many people have been praying recently and saying, Mother Mary, this violence, this awful hatred and violence. How can we stop it? What do we do? Where is this all coming from? And I want to simplify it for you. And again, every time I simplify something, there will be exceptions, but just take a moment and gentle yourself before you object and just listen for a second. If you can pull back from what you're seeing in the violence and ask yourself, what is it that these people believe? What is their story that they believe that makes them make these very horrific choices? What is the story that they believe? And I'm going to again make a generalization, so just take a moment and let me just do that. All of these acts of violence stem from the wrongly held belief that it is your brother, the other, who keeps you from that which you seek. I'm going to say that one more time. It's a big sentence, but I want to see if you can really be with that for a moment. Every act of violence, well, almost every act of violence, stems from the wrongly held belief that it is your brother, the other, who keeps you from that which you seek. So the story then is embellished with, again, name your group. It's that group that is keeping me from prosperity. It is that group that is taking my jobs. It is that group that is, name your poison, right? And so when you start to embellish that story, you start to live that story. You start to think, well, yes, if they're going to be in my way of power, of liberty, of, again, whatever their story is that they're believing, they will take up arms. So how do we shift this? That's very, very challenging to keep having the same story, different characters, different villains, but the same story. It comes out of survival, and it comes out of many generations in which certain groups would come and steal your women, steal your children, steal your cattle, steal your riches. It's not that it had no basis in the past. And certainly in the world today, it still has a basis in truth. But you are here to write a new story. You're here to write and live a new story. And so by examining within yourself, where in me am I still blaming someone, some group, some religion, some government, some president? Because in that dynamic, there will always be a perpetrator and a victim and a hope for a rescuer. That's that dynamic. And it's been going on a very long time. So what I want to do, if you're ready and willing, is release you from that old paradigm story that either you're a victim or a perpetrator or a rescuer, and say, no, I want to live my wholeness and my holiness and my love and my being. That's what I want. So in that story, you have the power. You and your connections to the divine have the power. Your hands, your heart, your mind are all now devoted not to retribution, not to finding someone that you want to wipe out, not to that. You become You all think of yourselves sometimes, I think, as light workers. What is that? It's the work of being a light. It's the work of being a light. And so when you see this violence on television or in the media, that visceral response is, oh my God, that's awful. Oh my God. And I understand that. And that's the cellular memory of legions and times of your own suffering in this life and others. So it's not without cause. But this time, it's really about saying, all right, I'm going to come back into my body. I'm going to come back into my heart. I'm going to come back and clear my mind and just ask, what would love do here? And so when you see these young men who are doing their best in their minds to feel powerful, to take back the country from the people that are trying to control them, that's their story. So if you go back a little bit, what is it that they believe? They believe someone else is in the way of their feeling powerful, feeling proud of their lives, feeling in many cases like a man or a woman. And so they create an enemy story and they play that out. And so you and the light, your work in the light, is to the best of your ability, pull back from the scene and say, what would love do here? And begin again to the best of your ability to see those angry men as little boys. And in all probability, they were beaten by their fathers. In all probability, there aren't jobs around. In all probability, they never had a teacher or a mentor to guide them toward a path of success in this world. And so they feel helpless, disempowered, lonely. And so they create these gangs, these groups, these militia, whatever, because they believe that that's how they can feel powerful again, that that can become their family, just as cult leaders have done for ages. And again, I'm just wanting you to understand it so that rather than only being repelled by it, horrified by it, angry about it, those are all very human responses. But to pull back a moment and say, what would love do here? How can I reach through that very challenging story and see the soul in pain? That's the work in the light. See the soul in pain. I'm not saying don't legislate against whatever you need to legislate against or do whatever you need to do to keep harm from happening. I'm not saying that. That's a short-term situation. How do we deal with the story of hate? We become the benevolent, compassionate hands of love. An idea. I don't want any of you to put yourself in harm's way. I really don't. But I want you to come back into the fullness of your being, the fullness of who you really are. Call upon all the light that you are. And then perhaps your prayer is for those I've just talked about, but perhaps it's for everyone. May all beings be at peace. May all beings feel love. May all beings know that they matter and that they have a purpose and that this life is here for them to find it and fulfill it. All of this fragmentation and divisiveness that is currently happening is really a sign that the old story isn't working. Always finding an enemy to blame isn't working. And neither is the injustice economically, the injustice physically, all of that. Again, I don't want any of you to put yourself in harm's way. That's not why you're here. The most powerful tool that you have, Archangel Michael would say, the sword of truth and the shield of light. And you do. So in your prayers, you offer them not only to those you love, but to all of those who perhaps have never felt love in their lives. That's the real disease. They have never felt love in their lives. And so they trade it for guns and some sort of camaraderie. Is it easy to love someone who is being violent and saying horrible things? No. But that's the work of the light. That's the work of the light. And in your own lives, the new story for each of you is to be free, to love as you choose, to love compassionately, generously, and with a clear-eyed compassion. And what do I mean by clear-eyed compassion? If you have a heart of compassion, it's easier to see someone suffering and offer them a blanket or food or a check or whatever, than it is to see someone in the acts of violence and have compassion for them. And yet, if you want the world to change, if you can recognize this being is acting in this way because they have never known love, so I'm going to send them love from a distance. Your world is sort of on the brink of lots of different things and different changes and different possibilities. And so for each of you that I love so much, and I love all of you, but those who have been sort of putting themselves in the place of, all right, mother, what do I do? Please, where's the guidebook? Where's the guidebook? Give me the guidebook. What I want to say is this: there's nothing more powerful than love. There really isn't. So if you can not only spend your time loving those that are easier to love, who are suffering in their own challenges, take some of your time and some of your energy and some of your love and send it, especially to these, in this case, the ones I was talking about were mostly young men, because they're also on the brink of not really knowing what is the new man going to look like and be like. What does it mean to be a man? And as I said, many of them grew up with fathers that just beat them and drank, and so, they grew up with violence. So what is a new man? I want you to think for just a moment about the men you know in your own life, the men that raised you, the men that perhaps you work with or that you married in some cases, the men that you raised, those of you that have sons. And think about the qualities that are most important to you, but also think about how challenging it is to be a man in this world today, where women have come out of the sort of the side, the closet and the sidelines and all of that, and are evolving into multi-talented, multifaceted, very beautifully powerful beings, partners to be with these new men. And yet, again, look through your media, look through your politics, look through your governments, and often you can count, many of you, on two hands, the number of men that you admire. I mean, you might admire this one for this or this one for that, but I'm talking about integrity. I'm talking about men of integrity that are strong and tender, compassionate, and take action. And they are evolving just as the women are evolving. And we don't yet have the models that these young people could look to and say, now that's the kind of man that I want to be. So for each of you, just kind of be with this understanding that the whole world is about to write a new story. It was either that or blow up planet Earth. So we're hoping for the new story. And this new story takes men, powerful, tender, strong, compassionate, women, powerful, tender, strong, compassionate, in partnership, listening to each other, helping each other, loving each other. And it's going to be a while. The good news is many of the newer children coming in have capacities to be this. And if they're loved by mothers and grandmothers and aunts and uncles and friends and teachers to be who they are, to be the man or woman that they choose to be, they will take on many of the earth plane challenges that those who came before have created. So your job, your work is light. Light in the dark places, light in the light places, light in yourself. You cannot love another any more than you love yourself. You can't. So what does that mean? What does it mean to love yourself? So many people say to me, I don't know how to love myself, Mother Mary. Many of you also didn't have, as much as we all admire your parents and those who came before, they did the best they could. We're not in any way maligning them. But they could only give you what they had gotten. So how do you get more love? You open your mind to a new story. You open your heart to new experiences and feelings. And then you use your hands to dance, to laugh, to create, to make art, to hug each other when you can. But most of all, loving yourself is really part of this new story. Not, I'll love myself when I lose 10 pounds, or I'll love myself when da-da-da-da-da-da. I love myself because I'm made of light. I love myself because God formed me. I love myself because that is the most honoring thing that I can do, to then be a force of love in the world. I love myself because I have been anointed and appointed by God, by Mother Mary, by the angels. All of you. You are anointed, you are appointed. It's really, it's both that simple and sometimes that challenging. So what I want to end with today is a transmission of love that I hope you can receive, both those of you who are here now and those of you that see me later. So all I have to do and all you have to do is say, I accept. And so I ask that the healing power of the holy light, of all beings, of God, of the angels, now pour upon each and every one of you, clearing your minds, filling your hearts, allowing your hands to feel this love and to be ready to give in whatever way and create in whatever way is for your highest good. We dissolve all old stories and hurts. We dissolve old ideas that for some reason you are not as innocent and powerful and beautiful as I know you are. We dissolve all that. And we invite you now to be your full I am presence. The presence of light, the presence of love, the presence of compassion, and the presence of peace. May you be well, may you be well, may you be well. So now say goodbye now. Have we ended the video, Richard?